The banquet hall aboard the Velaran flagship was the most beautiful place Claire Dawson had ever seen. Crystal pillars rose from the floor to the ceiling, each one glowing with soft blue light. The walls were made of a strange metal that shifted colors like the surface of a soap bubble. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species filled the massive room, their voices creating a low hum of conversation that echoed off every surface. Claire stood near the back of the hall, wearing her simple gray uniform that marked her as a junior cultural liaison for Earth's diplomatic corps. She was nobody important. She had studied alien customs for 7 years, learned 3 alien languages, and memorized thousands of protocols. But she was still just an assistant. Her job tonight was to make sure the human delegates did not accidentally offend anyone. The Peace Summit had brought together species that had been at war for centuries. The Valoran Empire controlled the largest territory in the known galaxy. They were tall beings with pale blue skin and silver eyes. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of humanity's. They had conquered dozens of worlds before humans had even invented fire. Yet here they were, sitting at the same table with humans, negotiating as equals. It was a miracle that Claire still did not fully understand. At the head of the long crystalline table sat Prince Kael Vorn. He was young for a Velaran, only 300 years old. His silver eyes moved slowly across the room, watching everything. His father, the Emperor, was too old and sick to travel, so the prince had come in his place. The fate of 3 star systems rested on his shoulders. Claire watched him with quiet fascination. She had read everything about him during her preparation for this mission. He was known as a moderate, someone who believed in peace rather than conquest. Many in the Valoran court hated him for this. They called him weak. They said he would destroy the Empire with his softness. But Claire saw something else when she looked at him. She saw a tired young man carrying a weight too heavy for anyone to bear alone. The banquet proceeded through its many courses. Claire helped direct the human servers, making sure they followed Valoran customs. Do not pour with your left hand. Do not make direct eye contact with royalty. Do not speak unless spoken to. The rules were endless, but Claire knew them all. It was during the 7th course that she noticed something wrong. A servant approached the prince's table carrying a tray with a single chalice. The servant was Nitharan, a species known for their pale skin and thin bodies. The Nitharans had been conquered by the Valoran 2 centuries ago. They now served as laborers and servants throughout the Empire. Claire watched the servant's hands. They were trembling. She had studied body language across dozens of species. Trembling hands in a Nitharan meant extreme fear or extreme anticipation. Neither was normal for a simple servant performing a routine task. The servant set the chalice on the table in front of the prince. It was the ceremonial wine, Claire knew, a drink that marked the official beginning of negotiations. Once the prince drank, the peace talks would formally begin. Claire moved closer, pretending to check on a nearby table. She watched the servant step back. She watched the prince reach for the chalice, and then she saw it. A shimmer in the liquid. Just a faint ripple of color that did not belong. Claire had studied Valoran poisons as part of her training. She knew that shimmer. She would never forget it. Nightshade venom. Her heart stopped. Time seemed to slow down around her. She knew what nightshade venom could do. 1 drop could kill a Valoran in seconds. It destroyed cells at the molecular level. There was no cure. There was no survival. And there was enough in that chalice to kill 100 Valorans. If the prince died here, at a peace summit hosted by humans, there would be war. The Valoran Empire would burn Earth to ashes. Billions would die. Everything humanity had built among the stars would be destroyed. Claire did not think. She did not plan. She simply moved. She crossed the distance to the prince's table in 3 quick steps. Her hand shot out and grabbed the chalice from his fingers, just as it touched his lips. The prince looked at her with shock in his silver eyes. His guards reached for their weapons. Claire brought the chalice to her own lips and drank. She drank every drop. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to look at her. Claire felt the liquid burn down her throat like liquid fire. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. It spread through her chest, her stomach, her limbs. Her vision blurred. Her legs gave out beneath her. She hit the floor hard. The chalice rolled from her fingers, clattering against the crystal tiles. She could hear shouting around her. She could feel hands grabbing her shoulders. But everything was fading. The light was growing dim. The prince's face appeared above her. His silver eyes were wide with confusion, and something that looked like fear. Why? His lips seemed to ask. Why did you do this? Claire did not have an answer. She had not thought about why. She had simply seen death coming for someone and had put herself in its path. It was not bravery. It was not heroism. It was just instinct. The same instinct that had made her study and prepare and work so hard to be here in the first place. She wanted to help. She wanted to protect. She wanted to matter. The darkness closed in around her. The pain faded into something cold and distant. Claire felt her heart slow. She felt her lungs stop. She felt herself dying. Her last thought was simple and strangely peaceful. At least the prince would live. At least there would be no war. At least she had done something that mattered. Then, there was nothing. Only darkness. Only silence. Only the void. Claire Dawson died on the floor of the Valoran flagship, surrounded by aliens who did not understand why a human would sacrifice herself for someone she had never met. But death, as the galaxy would soon learn, was not the end of her story. It was only the beginning. The darkness was complete. Claire floated in it like a leaf on still water. There was no pain here. There was no fear. There was only peace and silence, and the feeling of being somewhere between one moment and the next. Then she heard something. A voice. Many voices. They were speaking in languages she did not know. They were calling her name. They were pulling her back towards something she had left behind. Light returned slowly. First as a dim glow, then as shapes and colors. Claire opened her eyes. She was lying on a bed made of some soft material she did not recognize. The room around her was white and clean. Strange machines stood beside her bed, covered in lights and displays showing information in a language she could not read. A face appeared above her. Blue skin, silver eyes, a Valoran medical officer. The officer stumbled backward. He shouted something in his own language. More Valorans rushed into the room. They surrounded her bed, staring at her like she was a ghost. Claire tried to speak. Her throat was dry and rough. What happened? She managed to whisper. No one answered her. They just kept staring. It was 3 hours later when Claire finally learned the truth. She had been dead. Completely dead. Her heart had stopped. Her brain had shown no activity. The Valoran doctors had declared her deceased, and were preparing to preserve her body for transport back to Earth. Then her heart had started beating again. That was 72 hours ago. Claire sat up in her bed, trying to understand what she was being told. That is not possible, she said. Nightshade venom kills everything. There is no survival. The medical officer, whose name was Talvorn, nodded his head slowly. This is what we know. This is what we have known for 10,000 years. Yet here you are. Claire looked down at her hands. They looked the same as always. Normal human hands with normal human skin. But something felt different. Something she could not name. We have run every test. Talvorn continued. Your DNA has not changed. Your biology is still human. But something inside you has awakened. Something we cannot explain. What do you mean? Claire asked. Talvorn hesitated. He looked at the other doctors in the room. They exchanged glances that Claire could not read. Perhaps it is better if we show you, Talvorn said. He led her to a different room filled with monitoring equipment. He asked her to sit in a chair surrounded by sensors. Then he turned off the lights. Try to relax, he said. Try to feel the room around you. Claire closed her eyes. She did not know what she was supposed to feel. She just sat there in the darkness, breathing slowly, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Then something happened. She felt it. A presence beside her. Talvorn was standing 3 feet to her left. She could feel his thoughts. Not hear them exactly, but feel them. He was afraid. He was confused. He was wondering if she was dangerous. Claire opened her eyes. The lights were still off, but she could see. Not with normal vision, but with something else. She could see the electrical currents running through the walls. She could see the heat signatures of the people around her. She could see things that human eyes were never meant to see. "I can feel you," she whispered. "I can feel what you are thinking." Talvorn stepped back. His fear grew stronger. Claire could taste it like something bitter on her tongue. "We noticed something during our tests," Talvorn said, his voice shaking slightly. "Your brain is producing energy patterns we have never seen before. Not in humans. Not in any species." Claire raised her hand. Without thinking about it, without understanding how, she reached out toward the light panel on the wall. Something inside her stretched across the distance. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then they turned on by themselves. Claire stared at her hand. "How did I do that?" "We do not know," Talvorn said. "We do not understand anything that is happening to you." Over the next 2 days, Claire's abilities grew stronger. She could move small objects without touching them. She could sense people approaching before they entered the room. She could feel the emotions of everyone around her, like colors painted on the air. The Valoran doctors ran more tests. They consulted with specialists from a dozen other species. No one had ever seen anything like this. No one had any explanation. On the 3rd day after her awakening, Prince Kaelvorn came to see her. He entered the medical bay alone, without his guards. This was unusual. Valoran royalty never went anywhere without protection, but Claire could sense something different about him. He was not afraid of her. He was grateful. The prince walked to her bedside and did something that made every Valoran in the room gasp. He knelt. A Valoran prince knelt before a human. In 10,000 years of their empire's history, it had never happened before. "You saved my life," he said, looking up at her with his silver eyes. "You drank poison meant for me. You died for me. A stranger. Someone you had never met. Why?" Claire looked at him. She could feel his emotions. Confusion, gratitude, and something else. Wonder. "I do not know," she said honestly. "I saw someone about to die. I could stop it. So I stopped it." See, you did not think about yourself? You did not think about the pain? The death?" Claire shook her head. "There was no time to think. I just acted." The prince stared at her for a long moment. Then he slowly stood. "I have studied humans for many years," he said. "My advisors say your species is young and weak. They say you are no threat to us. They say you will fade away like so many other species before you." He paused. "I have always believed they were wrong. Now I am certain of it." He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Whatever you have become," he said, "you did not become it by accident. The universe does not waste miracles on those who do not deserve them. You have a purpose, Claire Dawson. I do not know what it is yet, but I believe we will all find out soon." He left the room. Claire sat alone in her bed, feeling the strange new power moving inside her like a second heartbeat. She was terrified. She was confused. She did not understand what was happening to her, or what she was becoming, but somewhere deep inside, in a place she had never known existed, she felt something else. Hope. She had died and come back. She had been given something impossible. And whatever came next, whatever she had to face, she would not face it as the person she used to be. Claire Dawson had been ordinary. The thing she was becoming was anything but. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within 1 week, every species in known space had heard the story of the human woman who drank poison and rose from the dead with strange new powers. The reports varied wildly. Some said she could read minds. Some said she could move starships with her thoughts. Some said she was a demon. Some said she was a god. Claire tried to ignore the attention. She had more immediate problems. The Nitharan Confederacy officially denied any involvement in the assassination attempt. Their ambassador gave a long speech about how the servant must have acted alone, driven by personal madness. No one believed him. The Nitharans had wanted war between humans and Valorans. With both sides weak from fighting, the Nitharans could finally break free from Valoran control. But their plan had failed. The prince lived, and now they had a much bigger problem on their hands. Commander Ben Hayes arrived 3 days after Claire's awakening. He was a tall man, with short gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in Earth's diplomatic security division for 20 years. He had seen things that would break most people. But when he looked at Claire, she could feel the confusion radiating from him. "My job is to protect you," he said during their first meeting. "And to find out who is behind all this." "The Nitharans," Claire said simply. "The Nitharans are the easy answer," Ben replied. "But someone hired that servant. Someone gave him the poison. Someone planned this operation down to the smallest detail. The Nitharans do not have that kind of capability. They have been under Valoran control for 2 centuries. They cannot even build their own ships." "Then who?" Claire asked. Ben sat down across from her. "There is an organization called the Syndicate of Shadows. They operate across every major power in the galaxy. They deal in weapons, information, and chaos. They profit from war. Peace between humans and Valorans is bad for their business." Claire felt a chill run through her. "How do we find them?" "We start with the servant who poisoned the chalice. The Valorans have him in custody. They went to the detention block together. The servant's name was Kel Nash. He was being held in a small cell, with energy barriers instead of walls. When Claire and Ben approached, he pressed himself against the far corner, trembling with fear. Claire reached out with her new senses. She felt Kel Nash's emotions. Terror. Despair. And underneath it all, a strange kind of relief. "He expected to die," Claire said quietly to Ben. "He knew he would not survive this." "Ask him who hired him," Ben said. Claire focused on the Nitharan. "Who sent you? Who gave you the poison?" Kel Nash shook his head. "I cannot tell you. They will kill me." "You are already in a Valoran prison," Ben said. "You will die here anyway. Tell us what you know and maybe we can help you." Kel Nash laughed bitterly. "You cannot help me. No one can. They are everywhere. They see everything. They have people in every government, every military, every organization. You do not fight the syndicate. You survive them or you die." Claire stepped closer to the energy barrier. She could feel something else now. Not just emotions, but memories. Fragments of images and sounds bleeding through from Kel Nash's mind. A face, a location, a name. "Vorath Station," Claire said suddenly. "You met someone at Vorath Station. A tall being with 4 arms. He gave you the poison." Kel Nash's eyes went wide. "How do you know that?" Claire did not answer. She was not sure herself. The information had simply appeared in her mind like a memory that had always been there. They left the detention block. Ben was quiet for a long time. "You read his mind," he finally said. "You actually read his mind." "I do not know how," Claire admitted. "It just happened." "Can you control it? Can you do it whenever you want?" Claire shook her head. "I do not understand any of this. The powers come and go. Sometimes I can move things without touching them. Sometimes I cannot. Sometimes I feel everyone's emotions pressing in on me until I cannot think. Other times I feel nothing at all." Ben nodded slowly. "We need to find someone who can help you understand what you are becoming. But first, we need to follow this lead." They traveled to Vorath Station, a trading hub on the edge of Velaron space. Claire wore a hood to hide her face. She had become too famous to move freely. Everyone wanted to see the human who had cheated death. The station was crowded with beings from dozens of species. The noise was overwhelming. Claire could feel thousands of minds pressing against her awareness. Emotions crashed against her like waves against a shore. Fear, greed, anger, desire. It was too much. Ben took her arm and guided her through the crowds. "Focus on me," he said. "Block out everything else." Claire tried. She concentrated on Ben's steady presence beside her. Slowly, the other minds faded to a dull background noise. They found the merchant who had sold the poison. He was already dead. His body was discovered in his shop, killed by a weapon that left no marks. The syndicate was cleaning up their trail, but Claire felt something in the dead merchant's shop. A residue of energy. A trace left behind by whoever had killed him. She reached out with her mind and followed it like a thread through a maze. It led her to a name, Vareth Cole, a smuggler who worked for the syndicate. He had been on this station one day ago. "We are getting closer," Ben said when she told him. "They know we are coming," Claire replied. She could feel it. A dark presence watching them from somewhere she could not see. "They are afraid." "Good," Ben said. "Let them be afraid." They returned to the Valoran flagship with their information. The investigation was far from over. The syndicate had deep roots and long reach. Finding them would take time, but Claire had learned something important during those days of searching. Her powers were not random. They grew stronger when she had a purpose. When she focused on helping others, on protecting the innocent, on finding the truth, the abilities came more easily. She was still afraid. She still did not understand what she was becoming, but she was beginning to accept it. She was no longer Claire Dawson, junior cultural liaison. She was something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, and whatever she had to face, whatever enemies were waiting in the darkness, she would face them with the power that death had given her. The Syndicate of Shadows had made a mistake when they tried to kill the prince. They had created something they could not control, and soon, they would learn exactly how big that mistake had been. The message arrived without warning. It appeared on every screen aboard the Valoran flagship at exactly the same moment. The source was untraceable. The sender was unknown, but everyone recognized the symbol at the top of the message. A circle made of shadows. The mark of the archivists. The archivists were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had existed for billions of years, watching civilizations rise and fall, recording everything but interfering in nothing. They were beings of pure energy now, having abandoned physical bodies long ago. They rarely spoke to younger races. When they did, it was always important. The message was simple. They wanted to meet Claire Dawson. Prince Kael Vorn called an emergency council. His advisors argued for hours about what to do. Some said it was a trap. Some said the archivists could not be trusted. Some said Claire should not go anywhere without a full military escort. Claire sat quietly through all of it. She could feel the fear in the room. No one understood the archivists. No one knew what they wanted. That uncertainty was more frightening than any enemy fleet. Finally, she spoke. "I will go alone." The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at her. "The archivists asked for me specifically," Claire continued. "They have not spoken to anyone in 3 centuries. They must have a reason. I need to find out what it is." "You could be killed," Ben said. "I already died once," Claire replied. "I came back. Whatever happens, I need to understand what I am becoming." The archivists might have answers. The meeting location was a dead planet on the edge of known space. Claire traveled there in a small shuttle, alone as she had insisted. The planet had no name, just a number. Its surface was gray and lifeless. Its atmosphere was thin and cold. Claire landed her shuttle near a massive structure that rose from the barren ground like a temple made of crystal. It was ancient, older than any building she had ever seen. Older, perhaps, than most stars. She walked through the entrance and found herself in a vast chamber filled with light. The light moved and shifted like something alive. Claire realized she was looking at the archivists themselves. They were everywhere, flowing through the air like ribbons of pure energy. One of them separated from the others and took a shape that was almost humanoid. A face formed in the light. Eyes that held the weight of billions of years looked down at Claire. "Welcome, child of the seed," the archivist said. Its voice was like music and thunder combined. "What do you mean?" Claire asked. "What is the seed?" "You have many questions," the archivist replied. "That is good. Questions are how understanding begins. We have watched your species for a long time. We watched you crawl from the oceans of your world. We watched you build fire and tools and cities. We watched you reach for the stars. And we waited. Waited for what? For you. The archivist moved closer. Do you know why humans are different from other species? Do you know why you survived the nightshade venom? Claire shook her head. Billions of years ago, the archivist began, there was a race called the Cedars. They were the first intelligent species in this galaxy. They explored every corner of space. They built wonders that younger races cannot imagine. And then they realized they were dying. The light around Claire shifted, forming images. She saw a great civilization spreading across the stars. She saw beautiful cities and massive ships and beings of incredible power. The Cedars knew they could not survive, the archivist continued. But they wanted their legacy to continue. They wanted something to remain after they were gone. So they created a plan. The images changed. Claire saw the Cedars traveling to young worlds, planets where life was just beginning. She saw them doing something to the primitive creatures they found there. They planted pieces of themselves in species across the galaxy. Genetic codes hidden deep within DNA, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Most species never triggered these codes. The conditions were too specific. The catalyst was too rare. But humans did, Claire whispered. Humans are special, the archivist said. Your species has a unique gift. You evolve under pressure. When you face extinction, you adapt. When you face death, you change. Ice ages made you stronger. Plagues made you resistant. Wars made you clever. The Cedars recognized this potential. They gave you more of their code than any other species. Claire felt the truth settling into her bones. The nightshade venom was the catalyst. Yes. The poison should have killed you. Instead, it triggered the awakening. The code the Cedars placed in human DNA activated. You are the first human to fully awaken, but you will not be the last. Claire's mind raced with questions. There could be others? Other humans with abilities like mine? Any human who faces the right trauma, the right catalyst, could awaken. Your species has always been more than it seemed. Now the galaxy will see the truth. Quote, end quote. Why are you telling me this? Claire asked. You do not interfere. Everyone knows that. The archivist was silent for a moment. We tell you because we believe you deserve to know. And because a great danger is coming. The Syndicate of Shadows is more than a criminal organization. They know about the Cedar legacy. They have been working for centuries to prevent humans from awakening. They fear what you could become. Why? Because awakened humans could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Syndicate profits from that balance. They profit from war and chaos and fear. Your existence threatens everything they have built. Claire understood now. The assassination attempt had not just been about starting a war. It had been about preventing her from ever existing. Somehow, the Syndicate had known what she could become. What should I do? She asked. That is not for us to say. We observe. We record. We do not decide. But we can tell you this. The archivist's face came close to hers. You have a choice to make. You can use your power for protection or for destruction. You can be a guardian or a conqueror. The Cedars hoped their children would choose wisely. Do not disappoint them. The light began to fade. The archivists were withdrawing. Wait, Claire called out. I still have so many questions. The answers are inside you, the archivist replied. You only need to look. Then they were gone. Claire stood alone in the crystal temple, her mind full of ancient secrets and impossible truths. She was not a freak. She was not an accident. She was the fulfillment of a plan billions of years in the making. She was the first of a new kind of human. And she had a choice to make about what that meant. Claire walked back to her shuttle. She looked up at the stars spreading across the black sky. Somewhere out there, the Syndicate was planning their next move. Somewhere out there, war was waiting to begin. But now Claire knew what she was fighting for. Not just peace between humans and Valorans. Not just justice for the crimes that had been committed. She was fighting for the future of her entire species, and she would not fail. The attack came without warning. 147 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the same moment, surrounding the Valoran flagship and the Peace Summit fleet. They were mercenary vessels, each one armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Their hulls bore no markings, but everyone knew who had sent them. The Syndicate of Shadows had decided to end the threat once and for all. If they could not prevent the awakening, they would destroy the awakened, and they would kill the prince as well, starting the war they had wanted all along. Alarms screamed throughout the flagship. Crew members ran to battle stations. Prince Kael'Vorn stood on the bridge, watching the enemy ships spread across the view screen like a wall of death. "They have us surrounded," his tactical officer reported. "Our weapons cannot match their numbers. If we fight, we will lose." The prince's silver eyes narrowed. "Then we find another way." Claire was already on her way to the bridge. She could feel the fear radiating from everyone aboard the ship. She could feel the hostile intentions of the mercenary commanders. She could feel the battle about to begin, and she knew how it would end. Thousands would die. The peace treaty would fail. War would spread across 3 star systems. Everything she had sacrificed would be for nothing, unless she stopped it. She reached the bridge and stepped through the doors. Everyone turned to look at her. Ben Hayes moved to her side, his hand on his weapon, ready to protect her even though he knew he could not. "Claire," the prince said, "you should go to the escape pods. Get to safety." "There is no safety," Claire replied. "Not while they are out there. Not while the Syndicate exists." She walked to the center of the bridge and looked at the view screen. The mercenary fleet hung in the void, weapons charging, preparing to fire. In a few minutes, they would begin their attack. In a few hours, everyone she cared about would be dead. Claire closed her eyes. She reached inside herself, to the place where the power lived. She felt it stirring like a great beast waking from sleep. The energy that the Cedars had placed in human DNA billions of years ago. The potential that no species in the galaxy had ever understood. She let it free. Her awareness expanded outward. She felt the flagship around her. Every system. Every circuit. Every person aboard. Then she pushed further. She felt the other ships in the peace fleet. She felt the mercenary vessels beyond them. She felt the crews inside those ships. Thousands of minds all focused on destruction, and she reached out to touch them. In the mercenary flagship, Commander Szeth Vorn sat in his command chair, watching the battle unfold on his screens. He had been hired by the Syndicate 20 years ago. He had killed millions of people for them. This was just another job. Then something invaded his mind. Not words. Not images. Just a presence. A feeling that something vast and incomprehensible was looking directly into his soul. Szeth tried to move. He could not. His body was frozen. His thoughts were frozen. All he could do was feel the presence examining him. Seeing every terrible thing he had ever done. Every life he had ended. Every choice he had made. Then the presence spoke. Stop. It was not a request. It was not a command. It was something deeper. A truth being planted directly into his consciousness. A certainty that if he continued down this path, he would face something far worse than death. Across the mercenary fleet, the same thing was happening to every commander, every officer, every crew member. Claire's mind touched them all. She did not hurt them. She did not force them. She simply showed them what she was, what humans could become. What they would face if they continued this war. One by one, the mercenary ships powered down their weapons. On the bridge of the flagship, Prince Kael'Vorn watched in amazement as the enemy fleet went silent. Ships that had been preparing to fire hung motionless in space, their crews unconscious, but alive. Claire stood at the center of it all. Her eyes still closed, her face calm. Energy crackled around her like lightning frozen in mid-strike. She was no longer just a woman. She was something new, something the galaxy had never seen. Then, slowly, the energy faded. Claire opened her eyes. She staggered, and Ben caught her before she could fall. "What did you do?" the prince asked, his voice filled with wonder. "I showed them the truth," Claire said weakly. "I showed them what happens if they choose war. They made a different choice. I showed them what happens if they choose war." The mercenary fleet was captured without a single shot being fired. The commanders, when they woke up, surrendered immediately. They had seen something in Claire's touch that had changed them. They no longer had the stomach for killing. In the days that followed, the peace treaty was signed. The Syndicate of Shadows was hunted down across the galaxy. Without their mercenary armies, without the fear they had cultivated for centuries, they crumbled like old paper in a strong wind. Claire stood beside Prince Kael Vorn as they addressed the Galactic Council. Representatives from 100 species watched as the human woman and the Valoran prince spoke about peace, cooperation, and a new future for all. "We have seen what war brings," the prince said. "We have seen the cost of hate and fear. Today, we choose a different path. We choose to build instead of destroy. We choose to trust instead of suspect. We choose to be allies, not enemies." Then he turned to Claire. "None of this would have been possible without this woman. She drank poison meant for me. She died and came back. She stopped a war with her will alone. She has shown us what humans are capable of. Not conquest, not destruction, but protection, compassion, sacrifice." Claire stepped forward. She looked out at the assembled representatives. She could feel their emotions. Curiosity, fear, hope, doubt. She understood all of it. "I did not ask for this power," she said. "I did not understand it when it first appeared. But I know now why it was given to me. Not to rule, not to conquer, but to protect. To show the galaxy that there is another way." She paused, feeling the weight of billions of years pressing down on her. The legacy of the Cedars. The potential hidden in human DNA. The choice that every awakened human would face. Humanity is not special because we are stronger, or smarter, or better than anyone else. We are special because when we face darkness, we choose light. When we face death, we choose life. When we see someone about to suffer, we put ourselves in their place. She looked directly into the cameras broadcasting her words across the galaxy. That is what it means to be human, and we are just getting started. The council chamber erupted in applause. Species that had feared humanity for generations looked at the human woman with new eyes. The galaxy would never be the same. Claire Dawson had been nobody, a junior cultural liaison who had never done anything remarkable in her life. Then she had drunk poison meant for an alien prince. She had died and risen again. She had awakened powers that no species could explain, and she had shown the universe that humanity was more than anyone had ever imagined. The stars waited above her, full of possibilities and dangers and wonders yet to be discovered. Claire looked up at them and smiled. This was only the beginning.